Hello there, folks, and welcome to the stream. My name is Mike D'Angelo, aka That Tellest Guy, and I am joined by my lovely co-host and wife, Rihanna.
Hello.
And today we are talking about sidekicks with real main character energy, which is why we have the Mandy Patinks on the screen. For those who don't recognize the character, Mandy Patinkin played Inigo Montoya in The Princess Bride, one of the coolest characters in the story.
Right. And while not the main character, he was certainly the show stealer in that movie.
Absolutely.
His performance, it was absolutely iconic. It was something that resonated with so many people. And I feel like that combination of heart and badassery is... I'm allowed to say that, right?
Right.
I think that's the secret sauce to really interesting characters. So even though the story may not revolve around them in particular, in a way it should.
Right. I would describe these kind of characters as characters with big step-on-me energy, with or without the sex. Right? Like, the sex appeal is what
That's how you want to describe
That's how I'm describing
it. Some of the people in our list here.
That's how I'm going to describe it. Most of them have the sex.
I'm not going to yuck someone else's yum.
So, yeah, like, pretty much everybody who is on your
you think?
real life approved, real life quote unquote.
You think?
Absolutely.
All
So
right,
Inigo Montoya was this guy, but Uncle Iroh can get it. All right.
I love it. I love that you went directly to Uncle Iroh.
He's the first on the list, all right? But Uncle Iroh, in all shapes and forms, can get it.
Well, that is good to know of my husband of 14 years that he would let Uncle Iroh step on him.
The only one who's not step on me energy is Styles, I think.
Stalinsky?
Yeah, I don't think Stalinsky's
He
got
was...
step.
Wait, so for those of you who don't know, Styles Stalinsky was the quote-unquote sidekick in Teen Wolf, but the main character, like, as far as I'm concerned.
The heart of the show.
He was 100% the heart of the show. But when he was all demonified...
The Oni?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No. Nah.
Okay, well, you have Uncle Iroh.
But I'll have both Tormund and or Brienne of Tarth.
All right,
both
fair.
big step on me energy.
That's fair. Now that is the bi dream of people who want to be stepped upon.
And
Tormund Giantsbane and Brienne of Tarth from Game of Thrones were another interesting couple that, like, we never really got to explore. Well, a lot of things happened with Game of Thrones that we didn't get to explore properly, but...
I will say this. I think what makes a good sidekick is...
Or side character.
There's a spectrum of snuggle and step on me energy, right? And I feel like any of these people can be both snuggled and the steppy.
I just want to tell the audience here that I intended this list to be wholesome, and for once, my husband is the one to turn it into something weird.
It doesn't have to be sexual. Step on me is an energy.
You've said it like 10 times at this
There's
point,
sex.
so it is.
Ron Swanson, come on.
Okay, okay. Alright, I get it. Ron Swanson can get it.
But
and so can, what's his name? What's his actual name? Nick
Offerman?
Nick Offerman can get it for sure.
You think that mustache tickles?
My goodness, you in a saucy mood today.
Rosa Diaz?
100%.
Right? Like,
yeah.
And every one of them. Step and snuggle.
Oh my god. Step and snuggle.
Mm-hmm.
That's gotta be a dance a la Dick Van Dyke on a rooftop. Can you use up step and snuggle?
Alright, so let's go to that one. Is he...
Bert is definitely a side character.
Right.
Yeah.
But much more snuggle.
Poppins,
much more snuggle.
I don't know. He did step in time a lot.
So let's go into how this connects to the Tellest universe.
Right.
So we talked about the real life ones because that was a fun way to kind of like integrate the idea into...
Right, like what we're talking about here, like in general. We're talking about characters that have a lot more interest that, like, we want to explore more in theory, but also have plans to study more in practice for some of these characters. Because they are deserving of their own tales, I think.
That's just a tiny one.
It is tiny.
So I do want to mention real quick, the ones that are not on your list are the ones that already have their own stories, right? They became main characters.
Right.
So you'll not see Bolt Thunder Fury or Vanatharin or Maximus or Icarus.
Right.
And Icarus really wasn't a side character before. Like, he came out of the gate as a main character.
As a main character, yeah.
And Maximus.
Mm-hmm.
They were side characters in other stories, and they were elevated to this level. So basically, what we're kind of saying here is that any of these characters can get that same kind of treatment,
Right.
and have it be something natural and rich, and have some depth to it and things like that.
Yeah.
So.
And some emotion as well as badassery.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to kind of let you run with this, because this again was one of your ideas.
Yeah.
So
I'll tell you what elements I thought were main character worthy, and you expand on it from what you know of the character.
Sure.
We can do that format. So this is Lila, who appears in like the original trilogy. Her character, to me, was fascinating because she is holding her own as a lady that has no special powers in a world of superpowered individuals.
Yep.
She has a really interesting dynamic with Luca Cregan, or Chaos Cregan in the story, where I feel like there is an attraction there for sure. They have a little bit of like a banter going. But
they, won't they?
A will they, won't they? But she balances like duty and being tough as hell with still maintaining a level of femininity, and I think that's pretty.
And I think that's, for the most part, that's what I try and do with like any of my characters who, right? Like, gender is not important in the way that they're portrayed. It's not important in like Tellest doesn't reflect our politics, right? Of like, and that's not to say that other people don't feel that way, right? Like, some people think that because
yeah.
Lila is a woman that she has, she's got more to prove.
Weaker than, or like physically weaker. But I think that the main thing here is not just that she's a female; it's that she's unpowered.
Right.
But she still manages to like be fearless at the same time.
Right, because I mean, if she had a power, it's that she's got military and combat prowess that she's earned over time.
Right. And I feel like also her character is just interesting because like she's very impassioned. She's very like she'll throw her whole self in front of somebody else for like the sake of battle. But she also kind of has that attitude. Like I read it in my head as kind of like that big sister energy. Like, what are you doing? Like, knock it off. Like, we got something to do here. And I kind of like that. Let's go. Like, I like that kind of attitude for like moving a story forward. And I think that if we were to explore, her solo adventures or even her adventures with Luca, I think that their dynamic would be very interesting.
The fun part about like her and Luca is Luca's definitely trained, right? Like, he was trained from a young age, but he also kind of is more of like a treasure hunter scholar type character.
Right.
So like he would let her do the heavy lifting.
Exactly. like she's the bodyguard.
Are you going to read that riddle quicker? I can't fight all these people forever. I believe you can. Exactly. You do you. Self-affirmation. You go, girl.
And I do think that at the same time, like, so with Luca's power being that he can sort of sense the treasure, I think a future story where, he's essentially, like, we've talked about him getting overwhelmed by powers and powered individuals. She would be a comfort to him at that point because she is completely unpowered and does not rely on magical weapons or anything like that. So she is just, like, the calm in a storm for him.
In a lot of ways, like when I originally wrote my main character, he's kind of a straw man for me, right? Like, I think most writers probably do that. Like, they try and envision themselves and, their character and everything like that. And Luca was a little bit of, Chaos was a little bit of a straw man. Yeah, a Boy Scout. And, he's evolved over time. But the fun thing, too, is I feel like, in a way, because, like, we've put them two together, like, there's a little bit of Lila in you, right? Like,
oh, sure.
There's a cuteness to that. And here's the fun part. So your maiden name was Brennan, and Lila's last name was Brenna.
Yeah, that's weird.
It is weird, but
because you conceived of this character
way
before we met.
Yeah,
that's kind of cool.
Yep,
I like that.
Yep.
Well, hence why they should get together in the end.
Yeah,
proven it works.
It's proven it works.
Except I have magic, so
that's all right.
That's all right.
I'm not a scholar.
So. Yes, you are. You definitely are.
Yeah.
That's some boo crap.
So we also have another Luca adjacent character here in Dirk, aka Degrad Camdy, who is kind of a unique werewolf in the world of Tellest, in that he doesn't transform into either just a wolf or a human. He has the in-between phase as well. So he's got like this...
He's the anthropomorph wolf.
Yep. So when we're first introduced to Dirk in the series, he just appears as a wolf. So we left him like that for half the book before he's like, hey, by the way, this is my real form.
Right, exactly.
Combat trained. So, I mean, obviously, like, you see him here and, like, his gear and everything like that. Older by far than Chaos. He's about, or Luca. He's about twice Luca's age when we first are introduced to him.
Right.
So closer to his 50s.
But not in an old man kind of way. Like, definitely in, like, a, you know, like
an Uncle Iroh kind of way.
Well, I would give him a little bit more grace. I would say, like, he probably has a longer lifespan because of, like, his werewolfism.
His lycanthropy.
Yeah, so I would say, like, maybe, you know, he's more mature, but definitely still, like, a youthful fighter dude.
The way that things are presented to you in your head is 42, which is my age, is older than dirt. Because I present as an older than dirt man.
You do not.
But you got Saul Goodman in like the Nobody series, and
like
Keanu Reeves and John Wick, who are ancient, and they're running around like little cubs.
Little cubs. He's a little cub for sure.
Yeah.
He's definitely got that, and I think what makes him a interesting character, who's deserving of his own story, which is something that we have cooking and will be collaborating right on, where we mix his story with Kayanani's.
Yeah, that'll be a fun little thing to play with.
So his connection to sort of like the moon as a lycanthrope and her connection with dragons is going to make a very interesting combination with like a lunar dragon.
Right,
story.
and we have that picture as well, and we came to that conclusion, and also we have the flower, the Luna Obsuna.
Luna Obsuna?
I can't remember what it is. The Luna Astera. I'm sorry.
Speaking of Luna, she is right under your chair, so don't move it.
Squish the pooch.
No.
You can tell that this guy's an old man because he's got the foot wraps. His feet are achy.
Nah, he's fine. So I think that part of why he should be his own character is just because he has like almost like the traits of a wolf that are compelling, right? Like he's loyal, he's a defender of his friends, he's fiercely protective.
Well, I can tell you exactly where we would go with a Dirk story, and that is his kind of journey as a guardian, because for a long time Luca couldn't protect himself.
Right.
When he was young and his parents weren't paying attention, Dirk was in the background making sure that he was safe, and then after his parents passed away, he was, or quote-unquote passed away, he was...
You know what it is? It's the Witcher. It's the frickin' Witcher, because you've got, like, the lone wolf and cub trope, and Luke is the cub.
You're a big fan of that trope.
I am a big fan of that trope, and we love that. So if the Witcher was a wolf man...
There we go.
And I love that attitude, that gruffness, but, like, a putty cat.
Yeah, he would definitely be a putty tat.
Putty tat for sure. So this is Andrakitus, who is a Draco Sage. Draco Sage.
And I think we talked about him last week, too.
We did talk about him last week. We talked about him a few times, but I think his character would make such a good main character for a story. Mm-hmm. I imagine him, like... So in my headcanon, I don't know if this is how you intended to write him or anything, but I imagine he's got a... dragons are his special neurospicy interest, and he will do anything and everything to learn more about the dragons, which may or may not toe the line of, like, forbidden knowledge and doing things that could very likely be dangerous. No. And I find that very compelling for a character.
We have kind of talked before, I have written 3 Adelia stories, and in theory, like, that could be where it ends. But we've talked before about, like, there's a whole bunch of story left to tell in her little corner of the universe. And I think before we get to it, we might do, like, quote-unquote companion tales to help lead us into the next story to tell for her. I think we're gonna have like a fourth story just for her to help bridge the gap to another trilogy. But besides that, there's other people that we need in that little side of the universe, and Androckitus was going to be one of them.
Yeah, he would be very interesting to have him and Adelia interact, because with her ancestral recall and his like
very knowledge based
and stuff, like it would be two book nerds hanging together talking about their favorite things.
We also in the original trilogy that I wrote, not for Adelia but for like the Child of the Stars trilogy, Androckitus was a bit on the older side and we aged him down. So we'd have to kind of explore how that's possible, because the timeline shifted, but how do you explain a shift in someone's age? So we would have to look into that and just do something fun with it. I think.
Easy fix. Some dragon lore, like Styx, his little companion dragon, like imbues him with youth.
That's what I think we do. You do something fun like that, but just putting it out there
but
in the world.
For his personality, I think that he would be, I imagine him being very scholarly, but then moments of unhingedness. So sort of like the Doctor or like a Sherlock. You know, like as soon as they get like an idea, like how they're portrayed in like the BBC shows. As soon as they get an idea that they're like, ooh, nothing is going to get in their way to deter them from pursuing that idea to the end, and like that I know I'm correct kind of thing.
Right. And I could see it being dangerous for him, because if he is playing with forbidden magic, like maybe it overpowers him at some point, and it's something that he has to work to rein in. Yeah. I think that's nice, because we do, to some extent, try to give our characters strengths and then
weaknesses,
a vulnerability. Yeah. So.
But I would find that very fun to explore his personality. Oh, my favorite. We've talked about Lucinda plenty of times on this show, on this
it's a show.
TV show.
We're showing.
But Lucinda is 100% going to have a prequel story written to get to the heart of how she became such a saucy sorceress.
A sorceress?
A sorceress. She's definitely, like, I conceived of this idea of a unapologetically sensual witch, definitely on the older side, a little on the plumper side, loves her curves, loves her luxuries. She's
the atypical sorceress, right? Because every sorceress, the only person who ever really I feel captured her essence that we've seen on screen that has the magical, kind of feeling is the witch from Dead Boy Detectives. She's as close as it gets, and she would be the prequel.
100%. No, yep, I love it. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, because she has an attitude about her, but she also has a compelling personality.
A magnetic personality.
A magnetic personality, whether it's for good or for bad. Lucinda, I never feel like is good or bad. I don't she's a good person.
She's a chaotic neutral.
She's a chaotic neutral, exactly. She will do what she wants. I imagine her as never satisfied with what she has, which is why she's a transformative witch. The ideas or the sources that I found compelling to add to her character were Chaucer's the wife of Bath, who's been married a bunch of times and is going on a pilgrimage alone, which at the time was unheard of, or a Madame Bovary who sort of tried to marry up in a way that would make her feel like she's satisfied, but she just never was.
No.
And that doesn't make her a bad person, that just makes her hungry for happiness.
Yeah.
That she, by nature can't find.
I will say, we said chaotic neutral. I don't know that I would necessarily put that there, because that kind of implies an absence of good or evil, and I think that she's distinctly not evil.
She's
right?
not evil, but
it's the opposite of evil, but that doesn't necessarily have to mean good.
Right. I think that she's not going to go out of her way to harm anyone, but I think that she would, in a situation where she could either choose to help somebody or say, this is a life lesson, you gotta learn, the world is cruel, she might go that route, as opposed to going out of her way to help somebody.
There's some other examples of some stuff that could be interpreted as meanness, like her turning the squirrel into a horse or a
no,
servant.
she turned the squirrel. She took a squirrel from the forest, turned him into a servant to carry her bags, basically.
But
like, she doesn't care.
But in any case, that squirrel has gone very far from his original.
Right.
And she's like, nah, it'll be all right.
It'll be fine. It would be eaten by a hawk anyway. Like, I think she doesn't see the world through rose-colored glasses, but in a way that makes her more compelling, because she's like, this is the way it is. I'm not going to hurt anybody, but I'm not going to help you out either, necessarily. I'm in it for me.
Yep.
But I think there's also, because she's... So, the transformation magic that she has is, like, the school of illusion, right? Like, it's not the transmogrification or whatever. Like, she's not changing the inner essence.
She's not changing the core of what an item is, because it will always return to its original state.
Right. She's like, so I would imagine that her level of concentration needed for certain spells is, like, maybe as simple as, like, keeping your hand clenched. Like, you're actively doing it. It's not hurting you, but you have to remember to keep doing it. So I would imagine, like, it's no real big deal for her to transform, like, a tent into, like, a luxury den for herself. But
Glamping.
Glamping, yeah. She's definitely a glamper. But, you know, at the end of the day, she knows that she's sleeping on a bed of moss and not, like, 1,000 thread count sheets.
But she doesn't care because it feels like Egyptian cotton.
It feels nice. Like, that's all.
So she has a lot of history to mine as well. Like, she's got a lot of lore to discover.
Right.
Because she does have 7 previous husbands by the point where we meet her.
Yep.
So we could see the things that shape her. There's a lot of story to tell.
And I think that part of her charm and part of her lore would be, like, she has this kind of reputation that, like, she kills all her husbands, but, like, maybe the truth is a little more heartbreaking. Like, you know, like, it just, maybe some of them...
We know that one is, like, really, like, they loved each other, but, like, they couldn't... Something happened where they couldn't...
be together.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's some tragedy in it, but also, like, I think more than anything, it's that this is going to be wonderful. This isn't that great. Like, that's basically the...
Right.
Basically the
And we
pattern.
know that some was dark.
Some was dark. Some did not treat her well. Some she didn't treat well. Like, I think it really just mattered of the person.
Yeah.
But I think that the main story is that she was of very humble beginnings with a very, like, not a very, like, loving home life. And her whole thing was, I need to get out and I need to
Be comfortable.
I need to be comfortable. I want all the luxuries that I was denied. Which makes her unapologetic again. Like, she's unabashed if she likes somebody. Like, the reason she likes Gaston so much is because he does not return her affections, and she's like, ooh, I can't manipulate you. Let me try.
For all the people watching, he does. People doing, he is not good at.
Right.
He doesn't play into the game because he doesn't understand it.
Right. He's like, I don't. What are you doing? Hands off my beard.
That's how he's neurospicy.
Exactly.
All right, we are going to do one more, and then we're going to take a little sponsor break. But let's talk about Nersha here, who very much looks like the main character on this cover.
100%.
But she's kind of an ancillary character, right? Like, she's a device to help move these other characters who are in these orbs, and to help Reese in the back here kind of tell his story. But Nersha is a deity of time. She's the keeper of the void, and
she needs a prequel.
Yeah, the closest that we've gotten to it is she plays a bigger role in the Quantum Quest novelization, because we ended up tying that together with Nersha and Reese and his companion Virgil. And we do learn a little bit more about her. We learn that she had a human life before she became, Nersha, the keeper of the void. So there's a whole epoch of, content to explore for her.
Right.
Like, what was it like first gaining that power? What was it like, venturing through time the first time? Because we know that she's made companions over the years that do her bidding, basically, but she had to learn how to work that magic first as well.
Right, and I would love to hear, like, the start of that journey, but also, as you can see, she's got the badass energy, and I feel like if she's able to look at all of time, basically, and see and assign people sort of like the permission to tamper with it, you gotta have some cool stuff going on in your head.
Right.
Or, like, who's giving you the audacity? Are you the one with the audacity? Are you just, are you just
total
taking
Chad
on...
energy?
Right, like, are you just deciding, like, yes, let's see how these puppets entertain me? Or are you, like, making connections, like, no, this has to do this in order for this to stay true. Oh, that person
She's
messed
the TVA.
that up. Right, exactly.
Now, I got an important question for you.
What?
Step or snuggle?
I think she needs a hug. She would step on you, but she wants a hug from you.
She's going snuggle or else.
Snuggle me or else, 100%.
Snuggle or get the step. Anything else that you want to talk about, Nersha, before we cut to break real quick?
We can cut to break real quick.
Alrighty, we'll come back on the other side looking at 5 more of the Tales of Tellest side characters with main character energy. And now, a word from our sponsors. In Shadow of the Elders, debut author Will Elm bursts onto the fantasy scene with a world that feels lived in, layered, and legendary. This isn't just a tale of swords and sorcery. It's a story of legacy, secrets, and the cost of power. Elm brings a fresh voice to the genre, but he also shows the care and command of a veteran storyteller. The characters are complex, the stakes are high, and the lore feels like it's been building for centuries. If you're the kind of reader who loves to get lost in rich world building and meaningful moments, Shadow of the Elders is one to watch. And the best part? It's just the beginning. Check out our full promo for Shadow of the Elders by Will Elm on the Tellest website. And we're back, folks. So, for whatever reason, my Narrowlinger picture got weirded out. So we ended up just grabbing the picture as it existed on the website and blowing it up. So she's a little blurry, but don't let that deter you. Narrowlinger's got some pretty cool energy, and we will talk about it now.
Well, she looks like a main character, right? Like, she looks like a high school teenager or cheerleader in this picture, but actually she kind of looks like a long-haired Tinkerbell.
A little bit. She's definitely got a Tinkerbell feel.
I like it. But she is a Whisperwind elf. She is the sister to Vanathrin.
Nope, cousin.
No, cousin?
Cousin
to Vanathrin, who is the main character of the Awake series. But she's also interesting. She's got her own sort of magic. She's got her own...
she is, again, another person who's in pursuit of knowledge,
right.
which we like.
She's got her own personality, and she's got her own,
she's not
drive.
a tag-along.
Yeah, exactly.
So her whole shtick is she is learning wind magic, which is, just a fun little... It wasn't intended to be like, oh, we're the Whisperwind Elves, and I also learn. And
I really like your picture.
She ends up going to meet with Wispus, which is also kind of a windy name, to learn more magic from him, because if nothing else, humans are known for their ambition, and humans learn magic at a quicker pace than many of the other people in Tellest.
I love that, though, because we just said she kind of looks like a Tinkerbell, and Wispus's whole thing is being shrunk.
Yep.
So she can shrink down
to a Tinkerbell.
To a Tinkerbell size and learn the wind magic.
Yep. Wispus is... The funny thing is, Wispus is not really as people-driven as your Gaston Camlins of the world. He's more like thing-driven, so like he's a collector of antiquities and stuff like that. A lot of the stuff that he has in his manor has been collected over time, and one of the things that he lets Narrowlinger play with is the bracelet of travel, which lets her go through the Nexus and things like that. So she has plenty of opportunities to have adventures. And the nice thing about her other power, she obviously has the magical things that she's exploring, but she also has the trait that the Whisperwind Elves have, which is that she can go to any place that she's been in the world twice per day. So she can, her commute is way awesomer than ours.
So she can basically yo-yo back to where it is.
Yeah.
But I also like that. So Vanathrin's whole thing is being kind of stoic. Like, you know, like she's a soldier through and through, I would say.
Vanathrin, yeah.
Vanathrin.
Yeah. Naralindra
is
more of a bubbly kind of personality.
Naralindra's bubbly. She's got a little bit. Oh, Bubbles would be good. Well, and
well, Bubbles not yet.
They're all side characters.
Bubbles and Lionel, they'll slowly rise to the top, but
Bubbles rise to the top.
and the other guy's Quicksand, so maybe not.
But I like the kind of like their dynamic is sort of like the grumpy sunshine, and she's the sunshine, and I think that she would have a lot of, or we could have a lot of fun having that sort of personality in a story. For
sure. This one, a little bit different, depending on when in the timeline. Hey, you're way too big, sir. All right.
So I'm going to let you talk more about Anson's character.
Because Anson can't?
Because Anson can't, exactly.
So, in the original timeline, Anson was a sing-songy type of bard, and in the new timeline, Anson has unlocked a curse upon himself, and he can't open his lips without terrible, horrible demon speak pouring out of his lips. Would you like to hear my impression?
Sure. Oh no, that's the same sound as the spiders.
Yeah, that basically.
God. Oh, I hate that.
That happens whenever he makes a speak.
Oh no.
And yeah, so we don't like that.
No, we don't. But I do think that he would make an interesting character, especially for his own story. Especially if you're talking about what that transition looked like, where he went from, you know, having a, let's say, angelic bard voice and having his entire being be speaking to others, and then losing that ability, essentially, or opening in his mouth and having people run in fear. That's such an interesting change that he has to go through.
Yeah.
And I think that it would be really interesting to have him have that same drive to entertain and stuff, but not being able to use his voice. He would have to do it through music, through body movements, through every other means that he possibly can. So then you went from a theatrical character to, like, an incredibly theatrical character, really, just without the sound.
Life of charades.
A life of charades, and I think that could be really fun, because you have, like, there are characters in stories like Groot, for example, doesn't say much, but my goodness, did people identify
Says a lot.
And, like, connect with him.
Yeah. There's a character that we've also explored a little bit in the Tellest universe who went through his own kind of speechless time period, and that was Richard Leonard's son in the future. He takes an oath of
Vow of silence.
Yeah, vow of silence. And in one of the short stories, kind of got forced into speaking. It was like, well, I guess that's over. But it would be funny to have these two interact, and kind of give Anson someone who's like, I've been there. Not quite like you,
right?
But I've been there.
Did we talk about, or I guess we could talk about, having him have a character, like, interest in a character who can't hear? Because that would be great. Because then he can talk all he wants. Sure. Unbothered entirely.
Yeah, I guess like if someone was trained to be able to read lips, it would be weird to see, and potentially tactical as well. Because while he's doing his demon speak, everybody else is losing their mind. Like, what is that? Right. And the other person's like, oh, you want me to go into the house?
Got it. No problem.
Yeah, I like it. I think that would be funny and cute. Actually, it could be someone that a banshee deafened.
I like that. There you go.
So.
Or it could be, like, so I know that the demon speak comes out of their Anson's mouth, but, like, have we ever explored what the demons are saying? We could have them interact with a demonic character.
Right. And I don't know necessarily that he understands it, which is a whole other thing.
But it would be interesting if someone else did, and they were like, oh, that's Steve. He said that the pot roast is on sale down the street.
And that cures him. Ah, my message has been accepted.
Got it. There's a sale at Target. Cool.
We don't like Target.
No.
So here we have Ileana, who is a character that we first introduced in the Son of the Storm series, the Thunder Fury saga. She was actually introduced in Lord of Thunder. So she is basically the Tellest equivalent of the Drow elves. They're actually called Delvers in the Tellest universe. And She is in a loving relationship with a dwarf named Colton. And would you like to speak more on Eliana and why you chose her?
No, to be completely honest, I just chose her because hot.
Because of the step on me.
Yeah,
a step snuggle.
A step snuggle. No, just step. I don't really need it. I don't need any of that. No, she's a very interesting looking character, like visually. I love that, like, in the art that we have of her, she's got, like, the female armor, like, the silly lady armor where, like, all of her organs are exposed. So that it's like, here, stab me in these places.
I stabbed you first.
Stop. I imagine her, like, I think maybe it's because I'm watching the Addams Family, like the classic TV show, but I feel like she's kind of Morticia-y, like a little.
She's young Grandma Addams.
Oh, nice. Like a little dark, a little macabre, but like, you know, but loves fiercely, and that's the vibe that we're going for in this.
So, I'm going to add some context to her story and everything like that. She had a group of Delvers that she was trying to escape the Everdark with, and all of them unfortunately passed away. She was, the survivor of her group, and she met up with I don't think Colton is right. Colton is my D&D character, and I'm losing myself with who the character is. Don't worry about it. He doesn't have art. He's not important.
Oh.
But she ends up meeting him, and the two of them form a relationship, which kind of allows the events of Lord of Thunder to proceed, because without that relationship, the item that is used to bring everything together doesn't exist.
Interesting.
So she might not be, technically speaking, a solo character, but I would very much like to see where her and her paramour go.
Yeah, that's a cute. So I call, they're not really. I like to call them 10 friends, like when you have one really tall skinny person and one short little squat one. So I feel like it would be like a relationship.
It's just a tall guy holding a shield.
Well, it's a short. It's a funny mix. I like the idea. Yeah, but I think that she could be an interesting character. I just want to see more art of her, selfishly.
Well, sorry, but I can show you Marin.
We love a Marin.
Boobs.
Good job. No, Marin, I think, is definitely could have a prequel of her own,
and probably will.
I think that she's she's sort of like the Zorro kind of character of this story. She's a vigilante, unpowered, that goes out in the night to like save the town that they're in.
A lady of the night, if you will.
But not in that way. But I think that her origin story would be very interesting to dig into. Like, how and why did she take up this mantle?
Yeah, she's kind of a female Batman as well, because she's definitely got friends in high places, right? Like she knows the Queen. They had a relationship when they were younger. She knows some of the noblery in the city of Argos, and like other people are aware of her secret, even though her sidekick at this point is not quite aware of what those what the revelations are.
Right.
We also know that she had a paramour who passed away prior to the beginning of the events of the Silver Serpent. So she's got a lot that you can mine for story, for sure.
Yep. And I think that there's like this flavor of story, I guess, is more of like the musketeer-y kind of, in my mind. Like, it's more of that era than like the medieval kind of like fantasy era.
And I will say, like, I designed this story to feel kind of like a mix of The Flash and Teen Wolf, right? Like, it's got that vibe. Whereas like the characters are like the quote unquote enemy characters are kind of made to feel like
Monster of the Week,
Monster of the Season, that kind of thing. And there's a little bit of Doctor Who looped into it, specifically the Russell T Davies years, because all the things sort of coalesce by the end of whatever book.
You've got the arcs involved.
Yeah. Now her story would be a little bit interesting because it precedes the Arcanix Compendium, which is where like everybody got their powers. So she would have to do a little bit of a, mundane, and I don't mean mundane as in boring. I mean mundane as in without magic.
Yeah. But you could also, I mean, for the locale that they have, I would imagine like a lot of seafaring folk.
Oh yeah.
So like
she's got a boat. You just don't see it.
So there's a little piratey, like she could go on adventures. It doesn't have to be confined to like the one island. So you could have that sort of encounter with magic, so that she's prepared in like a very specific way when the powered folk start threatening the land.
Yep. And there's a whole other force on the island of Ipius that they're on. Right. Peritas is at war with Argos for as long as we've known, so you can see that kind of play out a little bit as well. And we also know that last show passed away, so we'd have to figure out why and how that happened.
Right, and how that impacted her personality. Because I know that, like, so she was kind of reluctant to take on an apprentice, but I kind of like the idea of, like, like you would take a female character who you may or may not consider maternal, but like she's a childless millennial who's she's got the weird aunt energy.
Yes, that is a very good way of putting it.
Yeah,
I think she doesn't have the protective, like,
the maternal instinct.
She doesn't have that instinct because Kelvin is someone that she necessarily cares about in that way, but she does care about him because, this is my best friend's kid. I can't go home without him.
Right, exactly. But it's very much weird aunt.
And grows to care about him, for sure, in that way.
Right.
But, all right. A little bit different.
Juramentado. Look at this pimp. So he is the original baddie of the main story. He is a necromancer. Whenever I see his character, whenever I see a necromancer, you silly fool. Whenever I see his character with the purple, with like the
fur,
the
burst of fur,
the no F's given, I just see him as like the iconic sort of Disney villain where they leaned into that flamboyant energy, right?
He's got big purple Jafar energy.
He's gonna break into song at any moment. And I want to know more about him. I want to know more about how he interacts with these characters, because I feel like he went sort of like in the lore as like, the archetypal I'm a bad guy to like he's a bad guy with layers. He's a bad guy
the new
with
timeline,
with the new timeline. I feel like he can work with instead of against a lot of our heroes at different points.
Right.
But while pursuing, like, he's not manipulating. He's saying, like, I'm gonna do this because I think that life is an illusion, basically, and everyone is my puppet.
Yeah, I don't think that he's necessarily a good guy in the new timeline, but he's definitely more of an anti-hero.
I think I think it's fair to say that he's a villain and like entirely self-serving, like, but it's interesting. Like you can utilize him. I think
villain goes too hard for what he is now, because I think like what kind of made him a villain was the influence that he had from outside forces. I don't, and you and I have talked about it. Like certainly in the world that we live in, like you would be looked at as a monster by raising the dead and using them for utility.
Right.
But in this world, does it actually exist like that? If this guy is just using these, age-old corpses to have, carry my stuff, like...
There was a skit I saw on TikTok. I don't know if I saved it for you, if it was too long, but it was a necromancer, like, coming upon, like a person who's like, oh, my village was burned, my husband and child are dead. And, like, she did need someone to carry her back, so she resurrected the husband and the child to be her mindless zombies.
Yep. We had played the new Avowed game, and, like, that's, like, a whole point of one of the lands that you go to, is they're basically, like, raising the dead to perform, like, these basic things, like farming and stuff like that. And I had done a fantasy writing prompt recently that is based on that concept, kind of, like... someone who willingly says, like, after I'm dead, you can use my corpse
Right.
as
Donate my body to utility.
right, and for like a certain amount of time, and then for some reason they're still doing it after the time has expired.
Right.
Like, what is causing that? Like, and what happens if someone breaks that power? Like, do they become mindless zombies at that point, or do they return to the earth, so to speak?
Right. And his story has interesting, or his affinity, shall we say, has interesting implications, because if he's technically not doing the killing, he's just resurrecting. What's the like? It's not like it's like taking the shirt off a dead guy. He ain't using it.
Right. I don't know that you'd want to wear it, but
Right.
do you?
But he does. If he creates, like if he raises a cemetery to have a dance party, it's.
I absolutely need Juramentado to at some point meet up with Bixby.
100%.
Any one of Bixby.
Wait a second. There's so many options. Oh my god, I'm fan-fictioning this now.
And I really just want to see the bold colors clash.
100%. Oh my god, the yellow, the red, and the purple. Ugh. Oh, I love it. They're going to be best friends. They're going to be...
Much to Juramentado's chagrin.
They are going to be best freaking friends. Oh my god, we have to do this. I didn't even think about mixing those two. For those of you who don't know, or who haven't listened to any other things, Bixby's power is dying a lot. So, like, his body remains, like, behind while he gets reconstituted. Yeah. So, he could just have an endless supply of buddies. Oh, I love this.
We have the pictures, like, of the art of him dancing with himself, and Juramentado could make it a reality.
The two of them dancing. Oh my god, I love that so much. Yeah. I want to see a interaction where, like, so Juramentado knows that he's raising. Oh, it would be cute if his, like, underlying desire is to, like, raise the dead but keep, like, their personality. And, like, he tries to do that with Bixby, and Bixby, like, toodaloos for a while and then comes back and he's like, "Did you keep me?" He's like, "What? You were entertaining."
I like that too. With that, let's head over to our show closing page.
Excuse me.
You're exposed. So, folks, on the screen right now, you should see all the places that you can find Tellest content out there on the internet. Tellest. I got bit. Tellest.com is a great first place to start, but we have a couple of other like premium sites that you can take a look at. Patreon.com/Tellest will get you to our Patreon, where you can get all of our maps at a low monthly cost. Battlemapfantasy.com is if you want a more a la carte style. Tellest.etsy.com, you can go there if you want to get your wands or your other Tellest accoutrement. If you want a one-of-a-kind wand that you can commission our witch to make for you, those are open now, so you should check that out.
I'm the witch.
I'm the witch. We've got 2 TikTok channels for you. At Tales of Tellest is where you can find our doggies. They have a tiny little personality right now because they were running around like fools earlier, but usually they're yappy. And you can go to @WeirdWitchWands to find all of the handcrafted one-of-a-kind goodies that Rhianna makes. They're not just wands anymore, but of course wands are the main event. And then we've got 2 video sites for you to check out. YouTube.com/@WorldOfTellest is where you're going to be able to find all these videos after they're knocked off the Twitch platform. But the only place to check us out live is twitch.tv/ThatTellestGuy, so do be sure to check us out here on Mondays for Talking Tellest, and Tuesdays and Wednesdays for Making Maps, and occasionally when we're back, Thursdays for Tabletop Thursdays. That's going to wrap us up for today, but I will be back tomorrow. Until then, we'll miss you.